Well, how's it going? Just did a relatively quick stream. Fucking hell, talking myself dead. Fucking hadn't even started. I'm Mongo. Great start. Well, I've only got one viewer. I don't know if that's myself in another tab. Let's see, Gavin Sam's in the chat. So just for anybody that watches this at a later date or whatever the case may be, just doing a quick stream really. Probably should have started a bit earlier if I wanted to really ramble, which I always end up doing, which I'm doing right now. But not really been paying much attention to the news the last few weeks. Anybody that pays any attention to my channel probably is aware that I've not really uploaded anything. Just sort of taking a bit of a backseat. It can't be arsed at the moment. Plus, started a new job, but I keep a wee bit of an eye, obviously, on the building racial literacy stuff, which is critical race theory, because it's always interesting to see what that sphere of the internet, if you will, decide to punt out. And they've punted out some nonsense, as per usual. And then, of course, on the back burner, you've got Nicola Thinlips, still got the shit haircut, I see, talking yet again about independence this, independence that. And it just drives me demented because they're full of shit, obviously. You don't need me to explain that one. Like, I know there's a gentleman that sometimes appears in these chats called Billy Blogs. He likes to call me a Scottish separatist, for the record. I'm not a Scottish separatist, but I'm also not a unionist. I'm probably one of these people that if it was an ideal world, I'd like Scotland to be independent. We don't live in an ideal world, and I should as fuck do not want to be in an independent Scotland, which would be on a temporary basis for Nicola Thinlips to essentially throw Scotland back into the European Union, which is fundamentally what it's all about, as I was reading through their stuff, which I'll come on to in a moment. And flat bang at the bottom of the page, they're mentioning the European Union. So, oh yeah, the joys of living next to boy racers. Yeah, I used to be one of them until I totaled my car, but hey ho. But I just thought I'd start off quickly because I know Sensum streaming at 8, so I'm not gonna, waste too much time. But hello, Garmin Salmon. I don't know if you're still here or if you know, but nice to see you anyway, buds. But I think I'll just get straight into it. So I was having a wee scan, as you do, through the woman who's sort of responsible for the program, the Building Age Literacy program, because I'm wanting to see their second webinar. Now, for anybody that's not familiar, I'll share my screen so people can see what's what. I covered their first webinar, but I mean, I swear, I probably need to invest in editing software or something, because if I make a mistake during recording, I have to re-record the entire video again and then pause and resume where I've fucked up, just to cut it out. So I had that problem. Evening, bud. I hope you're well. I mean, I'm assuming you are back at home now because you were streaming last week, weren't you? Good to see you back on your feet, bud. But the last webinar I did on it, they had an anti-racist school club. Yeah, they've developed anti-racist school clubs, courtesy of the Scottish Government, of course, because it all derives from this project here, the Race Equality and Anti-Racism in Education Programme, which, of course, came off the back of none other than, if you can see me highlighted, which I hope you can, Black Lives Matter movement. George Floyd dies. Yeah, let's just get some anti-racist education in Scotland. But it didn't take them too long for it to turn into critical race theory. But my laptop died when I was about 50 odd minutes into covering this anti-racist school club, because I played it from start to finish, just reacted in real time, and my laptop died. But then when it started back up, it made it appear as if it was still recording. So it's like, right, that sounds transpired. No, it didn't do that. So I went to re-record the bits that I've made wee mistakes in and whatnot, and then it gets to about the 40 odd minute mark, and I realized that it didn't pick up any volume after that because the laptop had died. So I just decided to leave it. But anyway, that's where the program derives from. This is the woman who's responsible for it, for anybody that's not aware. In fact, what I'm actually going to do quickly is I'll show you where the webinar itself that I covered initially, the anti-racist school clubs, because it's still on this Twitter account here. I haven't been on Twitter in fucking donkeys, man. It's such a shite website. This is it here, anti-racist school clubs. If they've still got the link, I'm going to bang it in the chat, for anybody that's not seen the full and without my response video, if you know what I mean. Fuck off. But yeah, they've been punting out some new stuff. But my point to that was, fuck, it's about one about a ramble. They've already done a second webinar now that hasn't been released yet, which is, if I can remember the correct term for it, it was like critical thinking for teachers, or critical, I can't remember. I've got the stuff on Telegram about it when it's been advertised. You look at anti-racist school clubs, they've conveniently got it unlisted. Like, so if you don't follow these people, you'll never know that these videos exist. So fuck, it's just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. But the one thing in and around this fucking, there's her here, this woman, this evil fucking bitch. I'm so part of my French, that's what she is. But one of the questions that gets posed to this gentleman here responds to it. And it's something along the lines of, well, how did your parents feel when you went home and told them that you were part of an anti-racist school club in school? And, you know, and he was like, oh yeah, my parents said it was fine, etc., etc. But my problem with that is, either they're like your sort of left-wing progressive parents, right? So there's obviously that to take into consideration. Then it goes without saying they're more accepting, susceptible to their child participating in this disgusting rhetoric, this disgusting gateway into critical race theory. But there's also the other side of it, where it could be a case of, because they just hear the terminology of anti-racism and they think that their job is just simply a club for being against racism. But it's not, because this woman here, as I will show as well in just a second, once I post this in the chat for people, if I can fucking, here we go again, all my links, man, it's a joke. Like, I'm just going to post that in the chat. This is for anybody that's interested for a later date, because I do think it's vile. It's just, you know, I'm past the point now of making videos and stuff on, you know, like, oh, this BAME said that, this BAME said that. I'm past that. It's not that I'm getting older. I don't care anymore. I'm just, it's the educational side of things that's really getting to me. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's disgusting. And this is it here, building racial literacy. Like, so yeah, that's the full unfiltered thing. But she, and as I said, I have not been on Twitter in for the longest time. I wonder how many followers I've got now. I've only lost one. I'm doing all right. Like, but I've got a picture of her here, which I'll show people quickly before I move on. And I'm cautious of the time. I've got to progress as quickly as possible. It should be down here somewhere. Fuck's sake, I should have done this prior. I can't be that far down, surely. Bear with me, folks. Apologies. Come on. There's another way I can find it quicker, like if need be, because I've got it obviously in a video. I didn't realize how much nonsense I used to post on Twitter. It's been about almost a month, but fuck's sake. Yes, I'm gonna have to. I'll show you the other way, screw it, because for God's sake. Oh, don't run slow, folks. Come on, man. I need to get the independent stuff as well. But there should be a video I did on this. Here we go. Yeah, there is I'm getting to a point to conclude on my giant ramble there. Like, if my video would load. White tears, yes, just for anybody that's not aware. I know most will be aware if you watch my stuff regularly. White tears. It's just a disgusting concept, if I'm being perfectly honest. Where is it here? Yes, here. So my point to that was when I showed the webinar, like the anti-racist school club. So this kid goes home, says to his parents, "Oh, I'm part of an anti-racist school club," right? I wondered to myself, did their parents know that the woman that's responsible for creating that anti-racist school club has created a concept? This is quotes from her here. I'll just put it on full screen quickly. I'm not reading the whole thing, don't worry. But this here, white tears are the specific phenomenon where a white person starts crying in response to an accusation of racism that they have committed. While the committer might feel sad or guilty or ashamed, focus should not be with them, but should be with the person who has experienced harm. White tears. So, I'd love to have a conversation with these parents that are fine with their children participating in an anti-racist school club, Are they comfortable now? No, if they were to be presented with the facts that that school club derives from a woman who's creating concepts such as that, it might be a different matter entirely, if I'm being honest. But hey ho, I need to get back to that video as well. I always do this. I've got too many bloody tabs open. But yeah, anyway, back to her Twitter, because she's been out on the prowl again, doing her thing. This Melina individual, as it says here, she's a lead specialist at Education Scotland. So she works with the Scottish Government, and she's participating in creating a brand new, as I've got quoted on a video here, just for anybody that's not aware. I'm sure you are, though. This is the plan for our curriculum. The curriculum form subgroup identified early on the need to review the existing curriculum framework to seek opportunities to meaningfully embed and articulate race equality and anti-racism, and to establish the key principles and features of any future curriculum reform. The subgroup has a vision that Scotland schools and early learning environments will promote and embed racial equity, anti-racism, global citizenship through its systems, leadership, and curriculum using a critical race theory framework. This is coming to Scottish schools courtesy of this fucking vindictive woman. So yeah, back to her Twitter, because she's been posting some more nonsense. I don't know what this is, but there was something I seen. She did a presentation. Here's the photos here, and I was having a look at this, and I wouldn't mind finding the footage if there is any footage. But this is what a powerful and authentic and thoughtful presentation by Melina, whatever her second name is, on the Building Racial Literacy Programme in Scotland. Whatever this is proving to be a space for sharing and collaborating, scholar activism. So, if I come onto these photos though, right, and we have a wee zoom in on them, it perplexes me. It genuinely perplexes me that this sort of material, it's all fine and dandy to have these presentations in front of a bunch of adults. You do your thing. If you want to have anti-racist meetings in your Tesco's boardroom, or your Matalan boardroom, or your Primark boardroom, you be my guest. But the fundamental problem I have of all of this shit is, well, first and foremost, they have the audacity to call it activism. They're sticking it to the man. But second of all, these individuals, her in particular, the whole point of this program, the whole point of these exercises, the whole point of this presentation, the whole point of her main fucking existence in terms of her career is to focus on our education reformation, to target our children. And I was somebody myself who, for a bit, I've got skin in the game myself, and plenty of other people. Even if you don't, you might have nephews, you might have nieces, your friends might have kids. It doesn't matter. Even if you are one of these individuals that has nobody around you that has any children, you live a solitary life and you don't, no kids in your life, this should still piss you off if you have even the smallest fucking smithereen of racial consciousness, because this is attacking your youth. This isn't about attacking Bob, who lives around the corner. Yes, there's exercises and programs in place to shaft white men anyway. We're the only ones not protected by hate crimes because we're the white man and whatnot. But this is the youth. It's so it repulses me. I can't put it into words how fucking evil this is. And nobody bats an eyelid because Nicola Thinlips, with her daft haircut and a receding thin lip, yamming on about independence, and if you've got anything, if you've got the audacity to call her shit, none of the people that are supposed to be actually do it, but the likes of me do it. Oh, you're a Union. Oh, you're a Tory. We don't want to listen. Oh, just get fucked, man. But anyway, so so it's like, look here. Imagine sat there as a white guy, especially, listen to her bullshit. Who does she think she is? It drives me demented. I'm trying my damnedest not to get bogged down in this, but she's half Indian, half French, and she's living in my fucking country, creating a program with the Scottish government to target our youth. It disgusts me. Oh, the things I'd love to say if this wasn't Susan Tube. Oh, but anyway, vision for the Building Racial Literacy Programme. Every educator is racially literate and not race evasive. Anti-racism is a baseline professional value, and educators are empowered to identify and implement anti-racist behaviours and processes in their everyday practices. All right, and then we've got there was a bit about understanding whiteness. That's why I wanted to. So we got what have we got here? A key skill for leading anti-racist change. The most valuable lesson I have learned is that I am not alone. That's so beautiful, bold and brave, right? Racial identity, white ethnic, white people, BAMEs, yada yada. Safer spaces for anti-racist learning that minimize power imbalances is all this obsession with power, because that is fundamentally what people like her are after. They're after power, and the way that they're going about power is via subversion. You know, yeah. Where the fuck was the understanding whiteness? It might have been the first one I never highlighted, but. In the Building Racial Literacy program, we'll be working together as a community of practice with rich and varied experiences, knowledge, and perspectives to ensure that our shared spaces in the program are inclusive and supportive of all program participants. There are some principles we all need to share and commit to as we build our racial literacy together, right? Knowledge and emotion, embrace productive discomfort, build relationships, capacity for growth. It's all so wet wipery, if you will, right? But what is building racial literacy? I'll come on to that in just a second too. Race is an emotional topic, and we must create spaces where this emotion can exist. When we stifle or encourage people to be stoic about race and education being the operative word, of course, we make it an intellectual exercise. We need support in adults to feel the emotions in their heart, not just process the things in their brains, in order for people to be motivated to create change. Shut the fuck up. I mean, there was definitely a bit of whiteness, though. I mean, I'm not imagining that. Like, maybe it was the first one. It might very well have been the first one. I bet. Oh, what was the first one? Mongo, man, the one I didn't highlight. Anyway, look at this, right? So it says, I don't know if you can see this, right, but it says, right, a recognition of racism as contemporary. France Windance defines racial literacy as a form of anti-racist training, with a recognition of racism as a contemporary, not just historical problem, right? I mean, it's just nonsense. I mean, the revisionist history, as we know, but also the revision of words, the revising words. I mean, racism is... Like, if you go to any part of the world, like the Chinese, they don't like BAMEs, right? You go to the Congo, and if you're a white guy, yeah, good luck with that one. Yeah, it's the same everywhere. It's nothing that we created, but this is what they want you to believe, because if you go down that train of thought, then it opens the door for them to present this worldview with the whole of society and our systems and our structures. Every single facet of our society is built on core foundations and principles of this revised version of history, of racism, sorry. You know, our structures are all built in a certain way because we hate them. It's just nonsense. And consideration of intersectionality. So they want to embrace intersectionality, of course. The way racism interacts with other factors such as class and gender. Understand that racial identity is a social construct, right? Because again, the part of her shtick, this bitch in the fucking right, is that, you know, race doesn't exist, okay? And we created whiteness, and it all plays into what I just said there about our systems, etc., etc. Everything's predicated on this fabricated notion of race that we created, right? Understanding the impact of whiteness. So again, my point to all of this is this woman, along with the Scottish government, have created a program which at its core attacks and deconstructs whiteness, our society, and everything about white boys in particular, but it's not limited to white girls in many respects, right? In order to achieve quote-unquote equity, alongside promoting learning for sustainability, which is now pretty much enshrined in law because it's part of the General Teaching Council of Scotland's rules that teachers in Scotland must adhere to. So effectively, schools in Scotland must now promote Agenda 2030. Then you've got global citizenship education, which promotes social justice, again, forced to by the Council of General Teaching Council of Scotland, GTSE for short, or this GTSE, GTSE. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm getting that tongue twisted there. They've got to do that. They've got to promote social justice, normalizing immigration, etc., etc. Then you've got this cancer, along with enshrined LGBT, soon to be non-binary included, by the way. Oh, that's another thing. There's a non-binary working group in Scotland, which I probably won't have time to come on to tonight, but I'll see what happens. I love this one at the bottom here. The ability to decode race and racial microaggressions. Fucking microaggressions. It's, oh my God, like, man. And this is all for teachers. This is for teachers to promote this nonsense. One last thing as well before I move on. There was a post here, unless I've fucking used this. Did I? No, it should be here. Where was it? Don't you dare tell me I've gone past it. Is it? Oh yeah. Wow, more than 3,100 of you have participated in one of our professional learning and leadership programs, including our new racial literacy series during 2021 to 2022. We look forward to continuing to learn together in the coming academic year, right? This is from Education Scotland. Racial literacy, Education Scotland, which is effectively the Scottish government, right? And it's absolutely mental how many times this Twitter account in particular promotes this. Here we have it here. Last chance to sign up to the Building Racial Literacy Programme. But if you come to the Anti-Racist Educator, which I've shown before in my videos, this website, one of the people who created the website, I'll go too quickly. Yeah, are you ready for this for anybody that's not seen it? I know I'm going over old ground to a certain extent, but it's just because I am so determined for people to catch on to what I'm talking about here. This program needs fucking exposed. But who do we have here? Oh, wouldn't you know, it's Mrs. White Tears herself, the anti-racist educator. There's also another woman here that I found quite interesting. If you scroll even further down, this woman here, Nagit Riaz, right? She used to be a member of the SNP. She campaigned for independence in 2014, and she was the one. I don't have time to get the article up, even though it will only take 2 seconds, where she said that funding for Gaelic in Scotland was discriminatory. Yeah, it discriminated against Muslims. We're in Scotland, love, not fucking Mecca. However, that's just the gist of these individuals that we're dealing with here. But we've got all of these lovely words. This is a fantastic website to go to kind of give you the sort of, how would I say, the introductory sort of crash course on critical race theory, if you will, because that's what these people all are. They're critical race theorists. But they've got a section on racial literacy here, and they define racial literacy as, and I'm obviously not going to read all of this, racial literacy, also known as racial consciousness, refers to the individual's deeper awareness and understanding of race. With racial literacy comes the tools and vocabulary to discuss more complex issues about race and a growing understanding of how racism operates in its multiple forms. It's very common in the West, where people are taught from a very young age that everybody is equal, race does not matter, and if everybody adopts a colorblind lens, then racism will disappear. This is classified as racial illiteracy, and it's hugely problematic. Right? It's problematic. Okay. So we were all growing. For anybody that lived in sort of diverse societies before the critical race theorists came into the mix, because I grew up in a very homogenous area of Scotland, so I never even had to think about race growing up, right? But for those that lived in, say, London or Birmingham, you probably had you grew up alongside people and you never really gave it a second thought, provided you weren't an absolute minority or whatever, right? But if you had a couple of Pakistani friends or blacks, whatever, growing up, you probably didn't really think too much of it. That's problematic, you see. That's problematic. As we begin to realize the disastrous impacts of implicit racism and institutional racism propagated by the state and those with the most power. And who has the most power? Whitey, of course. And it goes on and on. But it involves adopting a more nuanced understanding of race, right? That's our redefined variation. It takes time to develop, and it's a lifelong project, learning more about structural racism, critical race theory, and white fragility are great places to start. See, this is what I'm talking about. And as I said, it all derives from this fucking race equality and anti-racism and education program. I've got a whole website or a section dedicated to it on Education Scotland's website, which I won't read out here. But the gist of it is, it's got 27 Scottish local authorities have been tested in the first cohort, right? This was round 1. They're now advertising, as I just showcased there, for round 2. So effectively, you sign up and then they pull your name out of the hat if you're lucky enough. And then once you've finished your course, you get to sort of, you've had your foot in the door to critical race theory. But the end goal for this project, courtesy of the Scottish Government via Freedom of Information request, which they fund, by the way, just close brackets there, is that every teacher will have this as part of their learning. Like, you know, when they're learning to be a teacher, this will be included within. So, as it says there, the ultimate goal of the Building Racial Literacy program is to make every educator in Scotland racially literate, effective at dealing with racism, and confident in leading anti-racism. So isn't that a beautiful thing to behold? It's just, it repulses me. It genuinely is disgusting. And as I say, most people just hear anti-racism, whatever the case may be. Some parents, I don't even know if they're aware of this. This was in the Scottish Government's manifesto, but there was not one mention of critical race theory. And that's what's coming. That's what's coming. So I think I'll leave it on that note for that. See who's anybody in the chat. Jesus Christ. 19 people watching. How is it going? Woodlander, nice to see you, bud. I'm gonna have to. I'm so cautious of the fucking time at this point, man. I should have done this earlier. 2 seconds. But I'll post this in the chat. All I'm asking for people, like I've said this so many times. I don't care if people share my videos. I genuinely don't. I've been doing YouTube since 2016. If I cared about views, if I cared about subs, then I would have stopped a long time ago. This is what I'm on. I just want this stuff out there. So there's that. What else did I have? I've already posted the webinar in the chat. But I will post. Should I post her? Well, it's too late. I've already showed her, but this is her here, Building Racial Literacy. Just keep an eye on these people. Share the stuff about if you can, please, because I think it's just grotesque. It really is vile. I don't know how else to describe it. So many tabs. Come on. Where's my stream gone? What have I done? Oh, Jesus. I'm off to a great start here. Like, right. What have I done? Oh, it's there. There as well. That. And there was an introductory video to the story of the Building Racial Literacy program. Have a watch of that in your spare time or whenever you want. Like, fucking hell, this is driving me demented. Too many tabs. But see who else is in the chat before I move on. I haven't watched Nicola Sturgeon's. She was at her podium again, yammering on about independence, but I'm going to see what's what in a second. But I did watch a wee video about 20-30 minutes ago, and I just about, it's only a minute long, the Scottish Government's YouTube channel. I was like, you're just taking the piss. Like, straight away they mentioned the European Union. It's like, there's a scam going on in Scotland, and it frustrates me how people just cannot see it. Like, look up, drop them. We're dropping people in hotels again. There's a rake of Ethiopians in Falkirk. There's about 88 Ethiopian men in Falkirk. Is it Falkirk as well? I don't know what they're planning on doing with them. Like, but I don't know. I don't know. I've ever heard someone getting called the N-word. No, I've never heard it either, to be fair. Well, I've never heard it in real life. That's all I'll say. I've never heard anybody being called it in real life. Like, is that you, Rex Monday? So you came up. I had a notification from you earlier on, but it wasn't you. It was strange. No, it was your name, but it was a different picture. So I don't know if you're somebody that's been in my chat before or somebody else. I'm not sure. I'm racially literate. The UK whites are unfairly privileged, though every skin tone is even more privileged now. It will be more so in the future. I wouldn't say we were privileged whatsoever, but at the end of the day, even if we were privileged, if we go down that road, we're not. Like, these people, they point at things that should go without saying, and then they've got made up terms for it. I mean, at the end of the day, we live in supposed to live in some sort of egalitarianism-esque society, meritocracy. So, equality should go without saying. But at the end of the day, if we were quote unquote privileged, it's our fucking country. At the end of the day, it's my attitude. Like, you ain't going to change that. But at the end of the day, they're doing everything in their power to reverse that. There's nothing in law, nothing at all that for preferential treatment or anything that hinders them. It's not a load of nonsense. Like, maybe I'm misunderstanding your comment. Like, but anyway, they would treat us worse than dogs if they could. Well, that's what I believe starting to come, because it's not like this is happening organic, is it? It's it's while this is happening, the rhetoric and whatnot's just getting worse and worse and worse. So it's I don't know, man. I just don't like thinking about it, to be honest, at this moment in time. But anyway, so now I'm going to have to go on to my second segment. I've got half an hour left before Sensum streams. I'm not going to cut him off but my independence nonsense is just, God. I can't stand Nicola Sturgeon, but I see this wee video here. I need to stop sharing for a second because I never had an option for the audio. It just went automatically to... There we go. Yeah, all right. Sorry, bud. My bad luck. Right. Yeah, where is it? So it's just, they mentioned the European Union straight away. This is I mean, there's just one major gripe I've got with the SNP, and I mean, everybody knows that it's the European Union shit. But yeah, this crap here, man. So...
Future. What if the people of Scotland could decide how we should be governed? Scotland is a nation. Under devolution, Scotland has its own parliament and elected government within the UK. The people of Scotland have benefited from decisions made by the Scottish Parliament and government, including free personal care for older people, no prescription.
Nothing is free, right? Nothing's free.
Fees. Tuition-free university education.
Oh, that's as well. There's a cap on that. There's a fucking cap. It's not like universities are full to the brim of Scottish people, are they? No, they're not. They're not. There's a cap. So get it up. Yes, not. They brag about things that they should not be fucking bragging about. It was like their baby box scheme that they had going for years. People in the chat from Scotland or anywhere actually might remember that a few years ago they were trying to tell you that cot death could be prevented via their baby box. They also tried to take credit for the creation of the baby box. They pinched the idea from fucking Norway. They stole it from Norway. They had somebody from the SNP fly over to Norway, and the way that the baby box scheme worked in Norway was it was a gift given to women to encourage them to come to like prenatal or postnatal classes, whatever they're called. I'm not a woman, sorry, I don't know about these things. But the point is, it was given to them as part of intending these events. The absolute lame brain, wet wipe, lip-wristed bohair who went there as a representative for the SNP came back and just pinched the baby box scheme, and they bragged about that fears. Even that's not free, because nothing is free. However,
support for families with the cost of living. While our parliament is more
pretty sure this cost of living crisis payment, if you will, that people on universal credit are getting across the UK isn't coming from the SNP. So what are you talking about? Oh, I forgot. Oh, because people on low incomes that are on universal credit that have kids get an extra tenner in their pocket. Oh, you're really helping them the impoverished.
Representative of the way people have voted. But under the current system, it's still only the UK government that makes decisions on many things that impact our daily lives.
Here it comes. This is this.
Including most decisions on tax, pensions and benefits. Whether Scotland should be in the EU.
When Scots should be in the EU. You know, it's funny because this is what they keep doing. Even the title of the video, democracy. But what they fail to ever mention at all, there's an elephant in the room that never gets mentioned, as if we're supposed to just accept that it goes without saying, that in this hypothetical scenario where there was a referendum of independence for Scotland, the SNP, or in particular, I like to think it's Nicola Thidlips, and I don't like to think it because it suits my bias. I genuinely think it's her fucking manipulative, vindictive nature that has created the situation that I'm seeing presented in front of me at the moment, and that is that if in the event of a referendum for independence in Scotland, if that referendum comes to pass, and if Scotland voted for independence, there would not be a secondary referendum at a later date, like Alex Salmond has suggested, in not so many words. There wouldn't be a second referendum at a later date for us to then decide whether or not we wish to rejoin the European Union. No, Sturgeon has already ruled that out, the same way she ruled it out in 2021. This time around, she hasn't said that she's going to rule it out, but she doesn't have to, because it's been presented, whether it's in these public TV appearances, whether it's in their documents, whether it's the news themselves when they're having these conversations with pundits and whatnot, it seems to be a given that independent Scotland means by default in the European Union. That is not fucking democracy if you're going to go down that road. And even the nerve for them to talk about democracy drives me demented, because at the end of the day, anybody that remembers 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, Brexit and the shit show that occurred after that, when everybody across the entirety of the UK, politically speaking, more or less tried their damnedest to reverse a referendum result, including the SNP, which then culminated in their Stop Brexit bus in 2019. But then to talk about democracy, it drives me fucking doolally. For her to talk about democracy in the sense that it's our right in Scotland to choose whether or not we become independent, while not mentioning the fact that she herself has already on record said that she wouldn't give us the opportunity after the fact to vote ourselves for a European Union renewal or not. No, it's a given. Because why? She wants us to rejoin it. That's what, to me, it's about, if I'm being honest. Like,
Impacting how Scots travel, work, trade and do business. Migration and whether we can grow our working age population.
Migration, whether we can grow. So this is what the SNP really rub me up the wrong way. Not just the European stuff. I've already posted this video on my channel before, as people are aware. If you've seen it, you have. If you've know. Where I put a compilation together of members of the SNP at different dates, at different locations, talking about, and different events and whatnot, talking about replacement migration, as if that is the only way that we can reverse the trends of our declining demography. They seem to have they seem to have completely ignored, on purpose, glossed over any mention of any other alternatives to try and reverse the trends, and they've not had any discussion with the public about this. In my ideal world, there would be a citizens' assembly where people, and I mean a legitimately independent citizens' assembly, not your fake one that they have for climate change, where everybody across the country, there'd be representatives from all stripes and whatnot, and it would be ethnic Scots, and I'd make allowances for Britons, but not somebody from fucking Gambia. You've got no say. I'm sorry, it's just the way of it. Like, what, I don't want your inputs on whether or not we should have more Gambians here. I hate to break it to you, no offense. And we should decide amongst ourselves in a citizens' assembly, or at least get a broad idea, a conversation, a national conversation going about things that we could try. If in the event of those things failing, you can at least then say after the fact, everything else has failed. That leaves you then with two choices. You adapt your society. This isn't an ideal world. We don't live in one of them. They're just sitting there rubbing their hands intently, waiting for an opportunity to either have devolved immigration or an independent nation to really fuck us up demographically speaking, with replacement migration and climate refugees because of our aging population. They say it so proudly, it's not even a secret. But that you would, as I say, it would be a choice of immigration, that'd be your last resort, or you adapt your society to deal with an aging population. You don't write off everything before you've even tried. You don't do that and jump straight to immigration. But this is what the SNP do.
And also decisions about defence. Since Brexit, the UK government has passed more laws that
defence, with our feminist foreign policy,
override the powers of the Scottish Parliament. We want Scotland's decision-making to be respected, protected and strengthened.
And how would it be protected, respected and or strengthened when we would be at the mercy of the European Union? This is what I just fundamentally will never understand about these people pushing this nonsense. I really don't get it. So with 20 minutes left, I haven't watched this. It's 58 minutes long. There's no way in hell I'm watching the entirety of it, even if I wanted to. But here she is again, little Miss Boca. Be interested to see what she says. But if in the event of her rambling too much, I did, when I was reading through the publication itself, I did cover, in fact, I think I've got it open actually. Oh yeah, it's there, that's fine. All right. So I'll really listen to what Nicola Thinlips has said, shall we, before Sensum comes on. Can't stand it. I really can't, because it's on record You know, it's on fucking record. I always do this. Things come in my head, like, but just quickly as well, it's on record of her ruling out a secondary referendum. She wants to treat a second referendum, indy ref 2 as they're calling it. And I know that like the likelihood is of them getting it via the Supreme Court and all that stuff. I'm talking about in the hypothetical, because at the end of the day, it's irrelevant of whether or not you think this referendum is going to take place. It's the division it creates, and simultaneously alongside that, it's the support that they obtain via the manipulation, the revisionist history, and this sympathy routine of, oh, they're out there against that will, which in and of itself isn't exactly clear cut. But it's the longer that this persists, the more support they seem to garner. And it perplexes me that there's not that much of a pushback. But there's an article that I shared on a community page a wee while ago. Here's it here. And I won't read through it all, but just to give people the gist of it, she had effectively ruled out a second referendum on the EU, treating it as a double referendum, you know. She rules because she wait 2 seconds. If I scroll down, sorry, because it was towards the bottom. March 2019, she spoke at a rally for pro-European People's Vote campaign in London, calling for a new referendum. In the 2019 manifesto, the SNP said, "We will work with others across Scotland and the UK to escape Brexit. In a UK context, we will support a second EU referendum with Remain on the ballot paper, and if it's the only alternative to a no deal, we will support the revocation of Article 50. This is the same party, the same women that are now talking about democracy. Look at this shit right here. But anyway, however, its Holyrood election manifesto omitted mention of a second EU referendum. Instead, it said the people of Scotland voted decisively to remain within the European Union. Man, that was a manipulated vote as well, as I've shown before. You know, you're basing your decision on what it means for independence. Let me be very, very clear. The only sensible and logical one is to remain in Europe. The premise for independence doesn't arise if you vote to leave the EU. You know, she seems to forget to mention these quotes that are direct from her thin-lipped mouth. However, its Holyrood election manifesto omitted mention of a second EU referendum. Instead, it said the people of Scotland voted. I've read that. Sorry, my bad. Brexit undoubtedly changes the way that Scotland engages with the EU, but it will not change the EU's importance to Scotland or our commitment to rejoining as soon as possible. Asked about the timing of IndyRef, Independence Dinlip said she wanted the former to be by the end of 2023, COVID permitting, or 9 years after the first referendum. She was then asked when she expected an independent Scotland. When she expected an independent Scotland could rejoin the EU, and if rejoining would only happen after a second EU referendum. She said, "That's not my policy. The second EU referendum we talked about before was to try and, at the 11th hour, to stop Scotland being dragged out of the EU. Unfortunately, that didn't prove to be possible. In terms of timing, re-entry to the EU, obviously we will seek to discuss that with the EU as we get closer to that choice that people have to make." I'm not going to put numbers of views on that right now, but there are many voices within the EU who do not think this would be a lengthy period for Scotland. We are not an accessions country in the same way as countries seeking to join the EU for the first time. We are a country that has been in the EU until very recently and has complied with all the rules. Yeah, complied being the operative word. Complied with all the rules. But yeah, in the video I just played, it's on about, oh, the UK is responsible for our rules. What a fucking... you know, it goes on and on and on. The members of the SNP themselves... there's another bit here. Just as in 2014, people had a detailed perspectives on which to base their vote. That's my intention in a future independence referendum. That will involve frank answers about all the questions people have included. What we will see is the journey back to the European Union. You know, there was members of the SNP that have also come out this year, in fact, even, that have said themselves that there should be a second referendum in EU, and she's been very, 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 very quiet on the matter, and you have to wonder why, if I'm being honest. Asked if IndyRef 2 would therefore be a double referendum on both leaving the UK and rejoining the EU, she said, "We will set out exactly the perspectives for independence and independence referendum, but the vast majority of people in Scotland want to be in the EU." You know, she's just very fucking vindictive, like. She said, and then she wrenches recent polls. When we have the independence referendum, we will set out the perspectives. We will take into account the up-to-date position on a whole range of things. But if you'd ask me right now whether I foresee public opinion in Scotland on whether or not Scotland to be in the EU changing, then I don't, because it hasn't changed in the years since the Brexit referendum. If anything, Scotland is stronger in its view, so that's not my priority, as it said up there, where I quoted it somewhere. Where was the quote? I don't have long left. But anyway, I don't have time really to play the video. I realize that, but yeah, this is their latest paper that came out. Obviously, there's a set of papers. You'll notice that there's a set of papers that's one of them. No, they're releasing all these different papers. Why can't they just release them all now? It perplexes me. But there's a set of papers that have been released over the course of this year, slowly, and each one's over a different topic. One of them is EU membership. Why the fuck's that not been released already? Or why won't they just clarify whether or not the same position is in place in terms of not having a second EU referendum? In this hypothetical independent Scotland, why is that coming at a later date? But if you listen to the rhetoric, which I intended to do, I understand I don't really have much time now, but if you listen to them in Parliament, or if you listen to them here, like Sturgeon has this way of words where she constantly talks about an independent Scotland. She says all the time that every country within the EU is independent. They're independent countries within the European Union, right? It's totally ludicrous. But when she says independent, you just take out that word and you replace it with like a EU member state, effectively, because that's what she means. So she's saying it without actually having to say it. So that's what it really irritates me. She's not independent at all, but she pretends that that's what it is. They've got all these papers coming out. One of them's about EU membership. One of them's about like sustainability, of course. There's not our words to that effect. I was reading through the Scotland place in the United Kingdom, and it goes on and on. But there was a section down here that I've quoted on Telegram, if need be, because I don't want to read too much crap here. In fact, I might just show the Telegram variation of it, like, just to save a wee bit of time, because it wasn't that far up. It was obviously people can't see that though, which is a bit shit. I'll see if I can find the bit. 2 seconds, sorry. Here we go. So, the Scottish Government believes that Scotland should exercise these powers to become an independent country, right? But what they mean is, this is my point. What they mean by that is in the EU, right? I'm sick of this. They're bringing up all these talking points now to try and harken back to 2014, where there was a sort of semblance of legitimate Scottish nationalism. There's somebody in my comment sections a few months ago, and he wrote this massive comment that I actually posted on Telegram at the time. And I absolutely agreed with near enough everything the guy said. It was a really long comment. And one of the things he said, and I'd always remember that, because I've never heard it being phrased like that. It's simple, but some people just, sometimes simple's best. He said, Scottish ethnic nationalism died in 2014, and he's absolutely right. It fucking died in 2014 because it's been hijacked and subverted ever since this independence movement. Because all this is independence. They're cutting out. They're not wanting to be independent. Why can't if they cared about independence, if they really cared about independence in Scotland, if these people really cared about independence in Scotland, then why would they not just push for some sort of trade deal? Now, you might think to yourself, some people will say one or two things, and there might have been somebody in the chat, and I will get to the chat before I end the stream just to see what people are saying, but maybe somebody said it because I've seen it being said before. Some say, Scotland wouldn't get in because of this deficit. If you listen to what they say in terms of, we're going to be like the renewable energy capital of Europe with all of our natural resources. Come on. If they were going to offer part of our fisheries, they were planning on shafting our fisheries and whatnot to rejoin the EU. They refused to rule out doing that more or less a few years ago. So if they plan to do that to our fishermen, what do you think they're going to do with all of our renewable energy sectors? Mr. Bureaucrat, I'll bend over for you. Here's the access to all of our renewable energies. So there's your in, I forgot what my second point was there. I mean, I was going tangents. Anyway, um, independence will ensure the people of Scotland will always get a government chosen by the people, and that these governments can exercise decision making all over their key policy levers that impact on the life of Scotland by becoming an independent country in the EU. Scotland and the UK can become partners on the basis of genuine equality. Oh, it drives me fucking mental. Oh my god. It's like none of so many people say that the SNP they're so obsessed with Trish. They're anti-English, they're anti-Westminster. No, they're not. As people have pointed out before, like Sturgeon, for example, is part of the Privy Council and whatnot. She's one of the most paid politicians in the UK. You know, she sounds very, very anti-UK to me. Like, you know, not to mention she's fucking English. Well, half English anyway. She can't be that anti-English. They don't. They care about one thing and one thing alone, fundamentally. And that, well, two things, really. Carrying out the Sustainable Development Agenda, which Sturgeon signed Scotland up in 2015. But also, they are obsessed with trying to, or the EU. So Scotland's already got a policy in place, and I can't remember the name of it, but they've got a policy in place to align all of our as many laws and policies and whatnot as possible with the EU. So if at any moment the EU decides to update or their laws, then or their policies, Scotland will implement it, provided they have the ability to do so, courtesy of the SNP. We're not even in the EU allegedly, and we're still doing this nonsense. But look at all the nonsense they tried prior to the referendum in 2016. They tried their damnedest to put things in place to make it harder for the UK to leave. After the fact, they tried everything in their power to stop the UK leaving. And when that failed, and only when that failed, now they bring up all this nonsense about independence again. Had 2016's referendum result been different, we wouldn't be talking about this, because to these people, to their fucking supporters, they do not care about independence. It is the EU. And I just wish that people in this country, in Scotland, would get it through their thick fucking heads. If they think for one moment, oh, we'll just vote for independence and get rid of the SNP. Good luck with that, pal. Good luck with that, man. You know, it will provide an opportunity to build new or strengthen existing arrangements, yada, 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 right? But you just come down to the bottom bit here. And it says, yeah, it just mentions it so differently. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Scotland will continue to share both a history and future with people across the British Isles. I mean, they say this nonsense, like, oh, we'll still be friends. Like, the Scottish Government believes that independent Scotland will be a vibrant, diverse nation. Oh, yes, can't wait for more new Scots to work in partnership with the UK, fellow Europeans, and the wider world, in contrast to Scotland's position in the Union, through which our influence is limited and curtailed. Joining the EU as a member state would make Scotland an equal partner, able to take part fully in decision-making process. So they're just saying it as if so this whole thing is about independence, as I was pointing out, independence. But yet, right at the bottom, oh yeah, but just join the EU. They're not the same thing. They're not synonymous. So I don't understand, for the people in this country, if you want independence, right, and right now, if you want independence but you don't want to be part of the EU, why are you supporting this shit? Why the fuck are you supporting this nonsense? I'll never understand it. I will never for the life of me understand it. And just to conclude all this, and then I'll go to the chat before I end, because I don't want to go over Sensum's time thing when he starts at 8. I said before, people have accused me of being a Scottish separatist. I am not. In an ideal world, I would want an independent Scotland the same way I would want England to be sovereign away from that cancer that is Westminster. I would want all of us to have some sort of trading agreement and, you know, security defences, but we should be sovereign nations, you know, because issues that affect Scotland are different to the issues that might affect England and Wales and Ireland. We should be sovereign in our own rights. You know, I wouldn't go as far as Dunkiller, we want it to be like put down to the localist level. But the way things are going, I'm going to mimic the lifestyle fucking Woodlander in 10 years, and I'm going to be living in the Highland wilderness. I can see it a mile off. Yeah, no, I don't have time to go over the video, but you're probably being spared, if I'm being honest with you. But anyway, here we are. No, I how dare you? No, I'm yeah, so what fucking is like, yeah, I know you're joking, but Jesus Christ, who's that sounds kind of hipster. I don't know what you're referring to. Maybe I should scroll up and make my way down, like, I'll start from about here. What's this? I reckon the original American model from Founding Fathers are probably the best one we had up to now. Yeah, I'd probably agree, more or less. But even that went Pete Tong, didn't it? You know, nothing lasts forever, as they say. But just look at the state of America, really, and that's the direction of travel we're heading. In fact, it's probably going to. We used to say that it was bad in America, and what happens over there, it's only 10 years what happens here. But we're headed in a different direction, man. With this nonsense in Europe, because the whole project effectively is to just turn it into his own melting pot. Really, none of us have ever lived through such shit times. I don't know what that's in reference to. So I would have been paying more attention to the chat at the time if I could, but obviously I wasn't. But times are pretty shit now. You know, at least even though back in the day it was a lot harder living. I'm not disputing that. Our granddad's generation and the years gone by and whatnot, but at least they didn't have this fucking crap to worry about, man. You know. Pros and cons for every society, I guess. Independence by S&P standards is instead of going cap in hand to London, we go cap in hand to Brazil. Exactly. And on top of that, I've listened to too much of their nonsense. You know, if you just go through some of my videos, you'll hear what I'm talking about, this nonsense about good global citizenship. They want what I was talking about earlier on, where I said that we're already aligning policy with the EU and that. There's a video on my channel somewhere of Angus Robertson more or less saying that once we get back into the EU, we're going to align every policy with the European Union, which includes, battling climate change and implementing all the sustainable development goals. We're going to align our policies to match theirs, match the bureaucrats' policies, because we share their values apparently. So this crap about independence is fucking nonsense. And then you get the argument like, oh yeah, but the government, they can do what they want. They have a bit more leverage. It's like, what's that? How does that work when our government are going to implement everything that the EU say? It'd be different if we had the Hungarian government where they're like, no, I'm not doing that. But we don't have that here. And you're not going to be able to vote in anybody here that would become like that, because every single member of our parliament, more or less, bootlicks these bureaucrats anyway. Anyway, Sensum starting soon. So the Horde of Babylon. I'm a family-friendly channel, pal. The UN member state, she said, yeah, that's pretty much what we would become. Because she's obsessed with the Sustainable Development Goals. She's obsessed with this crap. You hear them all talk about playing our part on the global stage, living up to obligations, and then even in the context of Scotland, because they're playing this notion of climate change, man-made climate change. They blame us for that. We get one of the biggest blames out of the lot, because Scotland played a pivotal role in the Industrial Revolution, because we used to have many a big brain in this land. So we have to go above. Well, this is Sturgeon's excuse for accelerationism in this country when it comes to becoming quote unquote carbon neutral. We have to do more and faster because of our we're extra responsible. So sustainable fucking Sturgeon. Oh, don't hear them talking about that though when they're larping as independents and nationalists too. You don't. And democracy. What's democratic about being a government that's implementing sustainable development goals that none of us voted for? Ted Heath. It's been a long time since I've read up on Ted Heath, but I do remember reading it. He did shafted. He knew, what was it? I have to reread it because it was years ago I read that. It makes me sound like a bit of an idiot, but he knew when it came to the EEC referendum for us to leave it, he knew that he needed to shaft it, screw over the people or lie or whatever the fuck. The worst part about the SNP back then as well, may I add, the SNP would anti-EEC, but I find that mental, because the EEC was actually in its, on the face of it, at face value, it was a better concept than what it is now, because it was supposed to just be some sort of trading block. But now I look at it, but I'd have to reread the Ted Heath stuff so I don't look too ignorant. But I'm going to have to go in a second, because obviously Sensum starting. I think we should call the Liberians and arrange a swap. We could start over in a tropical paradise. Well, yeah. No. Well, if you remember that stream from a wee while ago with the woman and the skin expert on BBC Radio Scotland when he was talking about Indigenous Scottish skin, I was surprised to hear that. We're not built for that type of climate, yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to fuck off. France, Portugal, and Spain are now burning for. Yeah. heat waves are heat waves, but just look at Australia and just look at California when a lot of these fires, arsonists and whatnot. And I want it to be interesting to see where these fires are actually occurring. Are they occurring in wheat fields and in forests and whatnot? There was a video for people in Russia firing a magnifying glass not too long ago that was tied up on a stick pointing down at the wheat fields. And you know what that's for, obviously. If you're ever a malicious child that burnt insects, you know, you can do the maths. But on that note, thanks for tuning in, people. I'm not going to go over Sensum stream. Pop over to Sensum's because he starts about now at 8 o'clock. Hello, just Kate. Sensum should be starting about now. So I'm about the fuck off. So I love yous all and leave yous. Or sorry, just Fiona. Sorry, just Fiona. You know. Anyway, later on. Bye.